Charles, Supergirl is bombing, Bitcoin is crashing, SpaceX stock is going down, and that's just the good stuff that's happening. There's a lot going on in the world right now that is potentially troubling, but how are you tonight, Charles? You're looking very blue.
Thank you so much. No, I'm feeling I'm not blue at all. I'm very happy. My jacket is blue
Yeah.
and my hat, but
You're looking great. And actually, everybody has been commenting on your incredible physical fitness regimen. It's like a whole new you. You look 10 years younger than you did 10 years ago.
thanks so much. Well, I'll tell you, I'm not using Ozempic or anything, any medical treatment. And the biggest thing I would say that has changed my appearance and outlook is not eating American processed food.
Well, you're going to the gym and playing tennis all the time, too.
No, I know, but it started with just abruptly when I left America, not eating American food. And that alone made a huge difference. And then once I got settled, you're right, I got into tennis a lot, and more importantly, I got into strength training. And most recently, last Sunday, I lifted 237 kilograms, which is over 500 pounds diagonally. So it's not like straight up, but nonetheless, it's about 300 pounds when you apply the appropriate percentage. And did it stretch my capabilities? Yes, but it also is helping a lot. I feel much stronger, generally speaking, and then also on the court, I can more or less cover the entire court against players my age. Against an 18-year-old, I have a tough time, but players, let's say 40 and up, I can pretty well handle.
Watch out for those 18-year-old tennis matches. But a lot of people haven't been talking about this, Charles. Russia, Trump had a press conference where he mentioned that Putin had told him that they were bombing his house. Ukraine is out of their damn minds. We've got a new lunatic running England. What's this guy's name again?
Is it? Well, he isn't. Starmer is out, and I don't know that they've settled who's going to
Not yet, but this was the guy who they're talking about. I forget his name.
Yeah.
We'll look it up here.
Yeah, but really, when you look from afar, as I currently am, and you are, at the situation in Europe, you got to ask yourself, what the fuck are these people doing in Western and Central Europe? I mean, they're in most countries, most of the larger countries, the population in total, excluding immigrants, and most of them are illegal immigrants, is declining and aging, and dependent on a bureaucracy that is expensive, can't pay its bills, so it's adding to the debt and deficit every year. Industries, where are the vanguard industries located? Where's the Amazon? Where's the Google? Where's the, pick an AI company? SpaceX is not headquartered in, Nîmes, France, or, Stuttgart in Germany, right? And so their own countries, their own nations and cities and states are failing. So their grand project now is to create a new bureaucracy, two new bureaucracies in the EU, and have unelected people run the EU and try to push NATO into a military conflict where where Russia might attack NATO first, they hope, and then NATO will turn to us and say, well, you have an Article 5 responsibility to go in and defend NATO now that we've been attacked. I mean, the most serious issue that I see potentially affecting the United States let's say in this summer, is exactly that scenario. Who is amping up Ukraine to launch more and more aggressive strikes deep into Russia, now into Moscow, which clearly they can't do without the support of NATO. I mean, Ukraine is not doing this on its own. And why is this in our interest at all? I mean, if Russia, you park Russia, put it on the side and say, let's not care about Russia at all. Is it in the United States' interest to support Germany, to support France, to support UK down this ruinous path where they're destroying there's a book out, I think, called Suicidal Empathy. And that's what they're doing in Europe. That's what Mondami is now bringing to New York, and others like Mondami, bringing to the United States, this is not a path we want to be on as a nation. And we don't want to share, I wouldn't, if I were president, I would not want to share intelligence with Germany. First of all, it's a one-way share. They're providing us garbage and propaganda. We're the ones who have the intelligence. And I wouldn't want to do that with France, with Macron, or with this new guy in the UK, or with Maloney in Italy. These people are bonkers.
Andy Burnham is the UK guy.
There you go. He was formerly the mayor of Manchester, and he was a kook. I mean, he's to the left of Starmer.
Mm.
You know? So, and meanwhile, now that it's summer, the program is every Friday, you know, the Islamic Holy Day, every Friday now to taunt or maybe to advance their ideals. These migrants are conducting services on the street in town squares, and that of course is not going over very well, you know, with the local population. So you got a summer, I think, of deep disturbances going to happen across Europe and probably in the United States. And if you're Russia, I mean, we after all are not adjacent to Ukraine. Russia is. And you know, if you put the shoe on the other foot, if you had missile strikes coming from Alberta in Canada to Los Angeles and San Francisco and other places, I don't think we would tolerate that for 6 years or 4 years or whatever it is. And actually, this conflict goes back to 2014, as more and more evidence, if not earlier, to 2005, given the evidence that Tulsi Gabbard has just surfaced about biolabs and other illegal under the treaties operations of the United States in Ukraine and in many other nations around them. I mean, it's really time for a very serious inquiry into all this. And if we are operating in the United States far outside treaties that actually have been signed and that are to which we are bound, yeah, that's a serious matter. And people need to be held to account. As far as Russia's concerned, you know, I would do the trade in a heartbeat of saying, you know what, America is going to sever relations with Europe and embrace relations with Russia. I mean, looking at the nonsense, I mean, take the UK, this censorship, you know, on a per capita basis, more people are in prison in the UK for thought crimes and social media postings than in China. Where's the outrage? You know?
You know, if you think about it, Charles, that's exactly the regime that they're going to do. I mean, as soon as they are given the opportunity, that is what they intended to do with the Disinformation Governance Board. At first take you off of social media, then you say something in public, you're going to be in court, then they just baby step people into this. Remember, in 2016, 2017, when we started doing this, there was no notion that you could be removed from YouTube for talking about a particular, you know, I don't think this vaccine is safe, or I don't think this election was fair. Like the notion that you could lose your ability to earn money by talking about those things was strange. And now everybody knows that's what's going to happen.
Well, you left out debanking. I mean,
Right.
here the former president of the United States and his family was debanked. And, you know, banned to the point that the family had to try to create their own social media platform, which exists. It's not the same as X, but, you know, this intolerance it has happened before in Europe. There's a period in Europe called the Dark Ages, you know, and that's what they're going into, a new dark age here. And capital and talent are fleeing. And Elon Musk did not decide to make his fortune based in Europe. And at this point, I mean, I would question whether how much attention he's going to focus on Europe. It's really sad to see this. I mean, you can't have an enlightenment if people are scared, or an enlightened society if people are scared to test the frontiers of knowledge. And humanity doesn't benefit from having one choir director telling everybody, okay, now it's time to sing this tune. And that other tune over there that other people don't like, you know, that a minority, but a big minority of the country doesn't like, that tune can't be sung. That's not healthy at all. And worst of all, we now look, the supposed thought leaders who were going to take us down the path of moving the planet farther away from the sun, or doing whatever that moron Bill Gates thought was a good idea to do with his ill-gotten gains.
Block the light.
When it turns out that these supposed experts and thought leaders are nothing more than people who are plucked from obscurity because they're good, take orders, and they'll play the talking points that are handed out to them every day. You look at AOC, and there's a funny ex posting that Musk put out just earlier, with AOC starting to say something, and Musk, on the side panel, just having a picture of a rocket taking off. Igniting, drowning her out. Here you have AOC, a renowned or a bartender of middling bartending skills, who has created exactly no private sector jobs, who's actually destroyed private sector jobs, saying that in her vaunted opinion, as a 6-year, whatever it is now, 10-year congressperson, that she can sit in judgment on a person who was already in history one of the most monumental inventors ever to walk the face of the earth, and the richest man on the planet, starting with nothing. She's going to sit in judgment on him. No, that's not the way it's going to work. And if that's the direction the Democrats think they're going to take the country, then woe is anybody who doesn't get out and vote this coming November 2026. These primaries, where that rich loudmouth moron Dan Goldman got trounced, a sitting congressman got trounced by somebody I'd never heard of, who's a Democratic socialist, a Mandami ally. And Mandami had some other people he had supported who did win. So the rising stars of the Democrat Party are crazy. They're economically illiterate buffoons. Yet the gerrymandered districts that exist in the U.S. are propelling them into places where the squad can now enlarge. Why does that matter? Obama from his Obama Presidential Center is going to use all the powerful tools that they have to try to sell the country on socialism. They want a financial debacle before the election, and they want to think socialism will solve all your problems, as it has been proven nowhere on earth and at no time in history. And certainly socialism led by people, can barely balance their own checkbooks without stealing from, getting illegal payments that they don't declare, or stealing from affiliated nonprofits. These people are not going to help us out of a financial crisis, which we do still have.
Here's the Bahama Library. Yeah, Charles, there's a lot of financial sort of crises brewing. I hope that people notice the improved sound. I've been taking steps to improve the sound, including a massive and quite expensive upgrade to the air conditioning here in the apartment. I didn't want to do it, but I was left with no choice. And unfortunately, in New York City, air conditioning is expensive. So if people enjoy the show and appreciate the improved sound, I hope they'll become sponsors on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. People can also follow me on X at JG_CSTT and sponsor there. We're going to be in the First Amendment Forum shortly to talk about some of the stuff that's going on in New York. One thing I forgot to mention, Charles, we just missed the Global Fact Conference in Vilnius, Lithuania, starring the villainous Nina Jankowicz and these other idiots. But this is Global Fact. Forget about what you think. These are the facts that they're...
It should be pronounced Global Fucked.
Yeah, International Fact-Checking Network. This is just European fact-checking standards. But this is what I'm saying. that they want to drive us towards, some sort of like UN style body of people who get to decide what is acceptable information, lawful but awful. Forget about the First Amendment, forget about you having your opinion and be offensive or whatever. You can't utter a word that might, forget about this rape gang over here. That's their culture. You can't talk about that. Somebody might get offended.
Yeah. No, it's dangerous and juvenile, and but it's out of their playbook. I mean, if you look, for example, at the way the Clintons and others try to rebut any allegations of impropriety involving nonprofits, they say, well, Charity Navigator gives us 5 stars. Well, Charity Navigator is a tiny little organization like this fact thing. How is a tiny organization using all the resources that it may have going to, in real time or close to real time, check every potential issue? You can't do it.
Yeah,
It's a waste of time.
well, it's worse than that because these are cutouts for intelligence organizations that want to put these idiots forward. That's why there was such a strong reaction to me exposing Nina in the way that I did, because there's an investment in this person and there's a purpose to what she's doing. But talk about that another time. I think people also want to hear, speaking of, charity and nonprofit disasters, your input on what Bill Gates had to say about banging prostitutes or whatever he was talking to Congress about today. It's unbelievable where we're at right now with all this stuff. Bill Gates, sniveling weasel, talking about tapping ass to Congress. What do you think of this, Charles?
Well, it's been, I mean, a guy like that has had women, throwing themselves at him forever.
Just for the money.
Right, but the people do that. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's crystal clear. I mean, Musk's interaction with him when Gates went to visit him at one of his factories, and Musk claims that Gates says it's impossible to have an electric semi.
Right.
And Musk looked at him and said, "You want to see one? It's right out there, right in the parking lot." and Musk's reaction was that he wasn't, he wasn't at all impressed with Gates's knowledge of science. And obviously, my father was not at the same level as Gates, but Musk was leading a team to figure out what software to use back in the 80s, and he had a meeting with his big boss at AT&T. He was supposed to meet with Gates, and Gates refused to show up. This was where they were going to vet, the scientists were going to vet what Gates was up to. And the one time I ran into Gates in the green room of CNN, he does not come across in person as somebody who's a real bona fide domain expert in science, let alone in futurology, and certainly not in health. Nor is Mike Bloomberg. And Mike Bloomberg nearly ran me over in a golf cart at Lyford Key in the Bahamas.
That's bad for your health.
I mean, nonetheless, I saw him about a week later in New York, and we sort of laughed about it. But people are entitled. People want to give money away to charities they think are going to work, by all means. But give so much money away that you control the World Health Organization, and then use the World Health Organization to mandate that the entire globe buy vaccines in which, oh, by the way, you happen to have a financial interest. That is not good at all.
But what do we learn from him? What's going to happen now? He testified about Epstein, and what? We get a day's worth of scandalous social media and then back to business as usual?
Probably. I mean, really, if Trump were serious, maybe he isn't, but if he were serious, this is the time to drop a bomb on the not-for-profit world and just say, look, you guys have been getting personal benefits through this scheme for decades, okay? And we're just going to use the laws that are on the books to charities that have been making taxable expenditures, like the Gates Foundation, claiming that the monies they gave to the Clinton Foundation were in fact to a public charity when the organization doesn't even lawfully exist, in my opinion, doing that to the tune of $500 million. Now for 10 years, 11 years of notoriety where people like me are banging the table saying, this is not right. tells me you're not going to change. So we'll just shut you down, assess the taxes, and the money will be used to reduce the debt and deficit. And we'll start with you, and then we'll move to Harvard and Yale and Columbia and other people that are doing this until you get until the rest of the crowd understands that we mean business about enforcing the existing laws. And what Gates was talking about, he was questioned whether he was being blackmailed by Epstein, which caused me to go take a look into when Epstein, in fact, first met Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton, under testimony, testified that his first conscious recollection, he always likes to split words, of when he met Gates was in 2002. But
Gates
Gemini says that Epstein first met him in 1993.
Bill Clinton met Epstein.
Epstein first met Clinton in 1993 and subsequently met Lewinsky and subsequently met Band. And so the question I have is, what is the link between Epstein and the people behind Epstein with Band and Lewinsky? That's the question. One of the questions I have. But the short answer is, to your question, is I believe Gates was asked, was Epstein blackmailing him? And because he was asked by Epstein to pay the expenses of one of the people that Gates was having an affair with. And Gates apparently took that to mean that Epstein is onto who Gates was banging while he was still married to Melinda. This kind of knowledge does not ordinarily come to a private citizen back in whenever this happened. As a guess, it's probably beyond the ability of a good private detective to know the kind of stuff that Epstein somehow knew. So the question is, who is feeding this information to Epstein? Was it a government-affiliated contractor? What was going on? And how widespread was this practice? I mean, the people who are associated with Epstein, including Trump, are people who were well known for their womanizing. So it's quite logical. I mean, it's in the Bible, for Christ's sake. I mean, you go way back, that women are used. Actually, the opening scene of the Bible, right? The Garden of Eden.
Yeah, try this apple.
Yeah, exactly.
The opening scene. It's before the credit roll. We got a lot to talk about, Charles. We're almost out of time over here, but we have to talk about these Antifa cell members in Texas who were sentenced to 100 years in prison for a terrorist attack on an ICE facility. This is progress, at least. I don't think this would have happened under the dish rag, Joe Biden. We also have the FBI raiding the homes of police officials, including Jeffrey Madry, who's jammed up in a whole sex for overtime scandal and all kinds of stuff. This all gets very close to Eric Adams, who unfortunately, basically Trump's Justice Department let go.
Isn't he the bald Albanian?
Yeah, he is living in Albany now. He's got Albanian citizenship. But that is weird that he got that Albanian citizenship. And then Jared and Ivanka are opening some island in Albania that everybody in Albania hates. I don't know what's going on over there, but that seems very weird. We've only got another minute here before we head over to the First Amendment forum. Anything else you want to touch on before we do that?
Yeah, just on the thing you mentioned on Antifa. I mean, what I've seen when I was in New York with you of the people I believe are Antifa people, these people are being trained and funded. They're not. This is not a spontaneous decision by these people to go and do what they're doing. And in addition to getting the people who are now going to go to prison, I think we need to understand who is funding it, and those people need to go to prison.
Yeah. Because otherwise it's just this is a drop in the bucket. You're talking about 8 people or whatever it is. I think you're right. This is like a nationwide, oh my God, Rashida Tlaib defends Antifa members. What? Why would she do that? Yeah, yeah, the whole thing is stupid.
She's a dumbass.
It's just, And we got a lot more dumbasses. Well, George Conway didn't make it into Congress. There's so much to discuss. I hope people will stay with us here, Charles. We're heading to the First Amendment Forum. Join us, everybody, please, on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com or patreon.com.